for the new session? We're going to have a very brief spiritual talk, and I'm going to try to go as fast as possible. I don't know what time they're going to shut the computer. An hour? Okay, I'll try to go fast. This presentation would inspired by a book for Max Lucado, if you know him. He's a very good American spiritual writer, and it was inspired by the story of David and Goliath in the Bible. So we're going to have like a new view on it. Who was Goliath, first to start? Goliath starts above them all, 9 feet, 9 inches tall, in his stocking feet, wearing 125 pounds of armor, and charging like a man contender at the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship night. He wears a size 20 collar, a 1-on-1 and 2 hat, and a 56-inch belt. His bicep burst, thigh muscles ripple, and burst through the canyon. Imagine you see this person. What you gonna do? If you're smart, what you gonna do? Run! And run fast. Well, what his techniques? We understand that, there was a war between the Palestinians and the Jews and Israel, and then his technique was what? 40 days, twice a day, morning and evening, the Palestine giant started in the front of the Israelite army, standing, humiliating them twice a day, 40 days. Imagine 40 days, you have somebody in the morning humiliating you, and in the night doing the same thing. That's his technique. Well, we have 3 people in the scene tonight. We have King Saul, we have David, and we have Goliath. Well, this day I defy the rank of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. Goliath looking down at God's people. Imagine, someone come to all youth in the church. He just said, none of you are men to fight me. All of you are cowards. And you're just a child, you're a girl. You cannot find me. You cannot fight me. Imagine I do this for you 40 days, twice a day. How are you going to feel? Definitely humiliated, sad, down. He's so proud of himself. He feels that, he got them. And he's saying that. The reaction of King Saul, when Saul and his troops heard the Palestine challenge, they were terrified and lost all hope. And terrified. The action of Saul was like that. I'm afraid, I cannot do anything. I can't sacrifice my people to fight a man because I know they're going to be losers. The best thing is just hide and feel humiliated, feel bad. Nothing happens. Well, David has a different point of view. You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of armies of Israel. More than David versus Goliath, this is God focus versus giant focus. What happened? David looked at him from different perspective. He saw God in him. So he let God look at him, not David himself. And that made the whole difference in the whole scenario. God's focuses versus giant focuses. If he looked to Goliath and what he should do, right away, he's a little boy, 16, 17 years old boy. This guy is old, he's armored, he's big, he trained. David knew nothing about this. When they give him the armor to wear, he fell down on the ground and he said, "No, I don't need this." And people, and even his brother was, argue with him, and he told him, you just came to humiliate us more? Go home. Look at your shepherd. Look to your, harp. Look to your psalm. Look to your song, your music. You're not a man of war at all. That's what people think of him. But he saw things differently. He's so God-focused versus giant focus. Well, giant, we must face them, yet we need not face them alone. Focus first and most on God. The time David did, giant fell. The days he didn't, David did. You have a giant, and we're going to go through this in a minute. You have giants in your life, humiliating you maybe more than twice a day. You have giants who try to control you, humiliate you, and make you feel miserably bad. And you have two options, either to fight them or to get terrified, hide in your home, do nothing about it. And the minute you focus on God, your giant fell. The more you focus on your giant, you fell. What is your giant? We have lists. Pornography, divorce, money, school, future, low self-esteem, alcohol, drugs, work, fear, entertainment, i.e. PlayStation, failure. That's your giant that actually humiliating you day and night. I don't want an answer, but go through this list and identify your giant. The one when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you think of. The last thing in the night before you sleep you think of. The guilt and shame you carry is your giant. The problem, the family problem, anything you have, feeling in the school, feeling down, feeling I'm worth nothing, I'm worthless. Maybe from my sin or my social status, maybe any other reason, but I am worthless. I have a low self-esteem. This is my giant. That's humiliating me day and night. And you have, again, two options. Think of your giant and feel bad, do nothing, hide in your shame and guilt, or focus on God so your giant fell. First of the morning, last worry of the night, your Goliath dominates your day and infiltrates your joy. How many people living miserable? They have money, they have jobs, and they have everything, but they have guilt. They cannot get away with it. They have shame. They have a lot of other things in their lives that really infiltrate their joy and make them live miserably and feel bad about their life, and they are not happy. I've seen in my life very rich people. They have everything you wish to have, and you think by doing this they have all the joy. When you talk to them, they have no purpose in life. They have the purpose to live. They even think of killing themselves. They are miserably bad. There's a giant controlling them, infiltrate their joy, make them feel bad. David measures in God. He sees the giant. Mind you, he just sees God's more so. He saw the giant. He recognized him. He didn't say that imaginary. He didn't say, no, he's not exist. No, he was there. He really focused on him, and he found, that the giant. But he focused more in a bigger power. He focused more on God. And when he saw God, the giant fell. And this is what you need to. That was David's technique. Giant, we must fade them. Yet, we need not to face them alone. Focus first and most on God. The times David did, giant fell. The day he didn't, David did. That David, who actually put Goliath down, one day he was afraid. One day he lied. One day he tried to act crazy to get away from things. Because in that time, he focused on the giant. He didn't focus on God. The time when he focused on God, he was that David that we know him. This is going to be our theme tonight, and I would like you please carry this theme with you all the time. Focus on the giant, you stumble. Focus on God, your giant stumbles. Please remember this. When you get attacked by bad words, when you're attacked by fear, by low self-esteem, focus on God, your giant gonna stumble. Focus on your giant, you're gonna stumble. God does not see the same way people see. Why we have to focus on God? This is the main reason. God does not see the same way people see. People see Goliath, a big giant, humiliating people, has power. He has a lot of things, to scare people. God looked to David, he has a heart. When someone tried to pick David, you understand the story. I'm sure a lot of you knew about it. His father bring a man, an older son, look like a king. He has a big shoulder, he's tall, he looks nice, he's powerful, he's strong, he's a man of war. That's going to be our king. That's what we're going to choose to be him a king. Then God said no. Why? He's my old son. He's good. He's a very muscular. He's look beautiful. He's big. He's my older son. No, I don't see him as a king. And the story goes on and on. He offered the second one, the third one, till the seventh one. Nothing happened. And then finally he said, I have no more kids. Even his dad forget him. Even his dad forget that he had that son who just staying in a field. And he didn't even say, I have no more. And some told him, you don't have anyone? I said, yeah, I have a little lad. He's in a field, taking the shepherd. Then they brought him and he said, God, this is he. How? Little kid? That is going to be our king? He said, yes. This is going to be mine. Sometimes you look at yourself like David's dad. You look at yourself very small. How am I to fight devil? I'm nothing. And actually sin sometimes degrades you so bad to a point that you feel always, I'm nothing. I can't do anything. I'm miserable. I'm bad. I'm weak. No, you're not. God sees you differently. David's dad looked at him a weak guy, a weak lad. He's nothing. God saw him a king, and he gonna bring Israel together, and he did. Even same measure, look to your giant. Your giant is big. Your problem is unsolvable. I have a huge emotional problem. I broke up with my fiancé, with my girl, or whatever. I have a divorce problem. I have a death situation. It's a giant. You look at it as dead end. And God looked at you and said, no, it's not a dead end. Oh, what you need, the 5 stones. And we're going to talk about these 5 stones shortly. David, God ruled the king with a very bad circumstances. Corruption from within, danger from without. Saul was weak. Nations weaker. What did God do? He did what no one imagined. He issued a surprise invitation to the nobody from nowhere. This is a surprise that God call you. Look at Saul. We talked about him in the last presentation. People feared him, and he said, why God? Why bring this man to us? People, even the disciples were afraid to meet him. And he said, God, he hurts your church. He hurts your people. He did a lot of bad things. He said, no, he's a chosen vessel for me. He sees things differently. Surprise, Saul became Paul. the disciple who defended Christianity resurrection, wrote half of the Bible, more than half. And then what happened? Surprise. God can make a surprise of you too and invite you when you think you're nobody and nowhere and nothing. Then He can surprise the whole world with you. The raging Goliath might be controlling moms, coaches from school of Stalin, you know Stalin, the Russian dictator, the pit bull math teacher, the self-appointed cubicle commandant, the king who resolved to spear the shepherd boy to the wall. Maybe that's the giant that you face. Controlling parents, controlling wife, controlling dad, controlling mom. School have you failing because you can't communicate with the teacher. A lot of bad circumstances. David faced them all. But in the same time, he won. Then don't come and talk and think about your giant. The more you think of your giant, you stumble. The more you think of God, your giant stumbles. A hand of a master weaver took Jonathan and David's hearts and stitched a seam between them. God worked in a mysterious way. Jonathan, son of Saul, used to be the heir of the throne. Who's supposed to be his biggest competitor? David, right? David's going to take the throne. So, for his best interest to do what? To get rid of David. Because he's my competitor. He's going to take the throne from me. I have to be the king after my fathers. But God sent somebody from nowhere, a little shepherd, to take the throne of me, and I'm a son of a king. God worked in a mysterious way. No. I'm your best friend. I am your best friend. I'm going to defend you even against my dad. Can you ever imagine this happened? It's all odd. But God worked it that way. He stitched their heart together and became one soul. And they're supposed to be the biggest enemy. And God sometimes knows that about you. Sometimes you pass through a very, very hard time. But God, David found a companion in a prince of Israel. You can find a friend in the king of Israel, Jesus Christ. Sometimes, you know, your heart's broken. And you find nobody next to you. God can send the Jonathan to you. Someone who will really help you and stitch his heart with your heart and make things a lot easier for you. But why you go that far? You have Christ. He found safe in a prince of Israel. You have a heart in the king of Israel, Christ himself. When you start focusing on Him, you're going to go through a lot of other things, and you're going to look back and you feel, you know, this was nothing. I don't know how He did it, but I know God did it through me and with me. In the desperate days, the God who made a miracle out of David stand ready to make one out of you. Maybe your first answer, you're going to tell me, I'm not David. Why not? Look at you. I'm not Paul. Why not? Don't look at me. Yes. You can be David. You can be Paul. You can be everybody. Sometimes, you know, our problem is this. We think that the people were born saints. They are not. We look at them after they lived the big life and struggled with it, and actually God made them a saint later on. So everybody sometimes said, I'm not St. George, I'm not St. Bishop, I'm not St. Paul, I'm not this. Why not? Why can't it be? Why you can try? David was a little boy, little shepherd, nobody. And even God told him one day, don't forget, behind the sheep, I got you and made you king. Don't think, you did it on your own. Nobody imagined that this little boy, he gonna win, a giant. And he gonna raise and elevate Israel out of humiliation and fear. God, whoever made this with David, he can make it out of you. Please don't underestimate the power on you from God. God can work with you, can make you a different person. Don't look at your giant. Don't look to the things that make you feel down and make you always, feel low self-esteem. Look at God, and then you're going to understand why can God make big things out of you without you even realize. And you can imagine. You think David, people even when look at David, they never believe, even his brother, his dad, and everybody could never believe that he did it and he gonna do it. If these people knew what I did, scared, guilty, and alone, he could be an addict, a thief, a child beater, a wife cheater. He could be a she, single, pregnant, confused. He could be any number of people for any number of people. Come to God's people in his condition, hopeless, helpless, and helpless. Sometimes, we saw people and we don't understand what they have. They have huge problems. The problem is sometimes they found them miserably and tried to offer help. You know why? Who lost hope in a church. Maybe they're facing a lot of because misery. And instead of finding Jonathan to give them the support, they found somebody supported the giant against them. You know why? Or what? We sometimes even talk about them. We said they deserve it. They bad people. So we add their giant, another giant, us. We became the giant humiliating them. And instead of became David to solve their problem and liberate them from their giants. Judgment, it's a giant. We put it against people, humiliating them, make them feel down, make them feel bad, and they're facing two giants, the problem and us. We don't have much time, but I'm going to go on the technique that David did, which we called it the technique of the 5 stones. We understand that all what he did the 5 stones. Boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the giant fell. How can we use this technique of the 5 stones in our problem to face your giant? The first stone, the stone of persistence. David used 5 stones, one after the other. One prayer may not work, but the second may, the third may, the fourth, the fifth may. Why sometimes from the first Mass you ask God for something and never happened, you got mad and said, I'm not going to pray anymore. Persistence is one of the stones that David did. First one did nothing. The guy laughed at him. Second did not. Third did not. The fourth starts to feel out of balance. The fifth, he fell. Please be persistent in your struggle. Prayer. Fight. You have a problem. You have a bad habit. You have a sin that you cannot control. Fight. Don't give up. Keep fighting. Be persistent. You have a giant humiliating you. Sadness, divorce, alcohol, pornography, whatever. Fight and be persistent. Don't give up and don't give in. Well, The Aghazis said, imitate him, never give up. One prayer might not be enough. One apology might not do it. One day or month to resolve might not suffice, but you may not knock down a time or two, but do not quit. Keep loading the rocks. Keep swinging the sling. That's what we learn. Stone number 2, stone of priority. God's reputation, David's jealousy guarded it. That was David's priority. You know what he said to Goliath? Who you are to humiliate God's people? Who you are, do you think you're doing? God's priority in this scenario make David very strong. God's reputation was very important for David. I love God, and I don't want anybody to humiliate God. You're not humiliating Israel per se, you're humiliating who? God of Israel. That's why he told him, who you think to humiliate God of Israel? Today you will know that the God of Israel is strong, and he put you in my hand and delivered you to my hand. God's reputation is more important in your struggle. You're going to tell me how. You know, every time you sin, every time you give in, you actually made the devil rejoice. You made the devil humiliating God. Tell him, you know what, you died in vain. A few years ago, there was a movie for, I think, Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's a very old one, but I remember this scenery. In the end, he was possessed. I don't know what the name. He was possessed, and then he went in a church, and the devil looked at Christ in a cross. And it was a big crucifix in a church, and he was possessed. So the devil, you know, spoke on his behalf, and he said to Jesus, you died in vain. All the people you died for, all the suffering you went through, went in vain. I got them all. They are all mine. They left you. They are all in my hand. They do exactly what I told them to do. They sin as I want them to do. They are in my hand. You died for nothing. So that's exactly what happened. When you give in to the sin, you made the devil say the same thing to Jesus. You died for nothing. Those people are mine. So your second stone, you put it in your hand. I will never let the devil humiliate Jesus and tell him you died for nothing. I'm not going to tell him, I'm not going to let the devil rejoice. It's a challenge. You're trying to take me away from God, my God hand, who loves me, who died for me. No, I'm not going to let you do this. I'll understand he loves me and I love him. And I will never let you take me away from his hand. Remind yourself, every time you sin, every time you do things against God's will, you make God sad and you make the devil rejoice. And if God's reputation is number one in your struggle, this is a very strong stone. You're going to put it in your hand. That's what he told him. All the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear. The battle is the Lord's. So that's what you have to understand. When you struggle, the battle is the Lord. It's not yours. You're not the one who fights. The Lord is going to fight for you. But your priority is God's reputation. David saw Goliath as a chance for God to show off. Did David know that he would exit the battle alive? No. But he was willing to give his life for the reputation of God. Maybe he didn't know that he came out alive after this. But he was willing to give up his life for God, just to fight for God's reputation. What if you saw your giant in the same manner, rather than regarding him, welcome him. Your cancer is God's chance to flex his healing muscle. Your sin is God's opportunity to show his grace. Your struggling marriage can billboard God's power. See your struggle as God's canvas. Even through your problems, you can see God as a chance to work. you're ready for a miracle that you don't know. 2 days ago, I was talking to a young guy. He has some problems. He just came from Egypt, and he's worried a lot about things. So I was talking to him about some miracle happened, which I know the people witnessed it. I know them personally. Then the guy, he told me, Abuna, you don't know what you did to me. I never knew that. I heard about miracles. But to hear it from you, that you witnessed this personally, that's something make me amazed. And it's really strengthened my faith. This is true. Your faith could be a canvas to God drew a miracle through a problems. Look at your problems. Look at your financial situation. Look at school. Look at disease. Look whatever. It's a canvas. God can draw a beautiful picture to strengthen your faith. A stone of passion. What that mean? David ran not away from, but toward his giant. Listing hurts won't heal them. Itemizing problem won't solve them. Categorizing rejection won't remove them. David legitimized the giant because he emphasized the Lord. What that mean? Do you struggle with passion? Do you go with the power that I'm going to do it? Just, Abuna told me, so I'm going to try. No, ran against the devil. Face him and tell him, I have the power of God to destroy you. God deliver you in my hand. Don't feel weak. Don't feel down. Don't feel that I cannot do it. Don't feel that, just Abuna told me that I've tried, never worked. How many people go back and say, I went and confessed to Abuna, nothing happened. As if Abuna have this magic stick. He's going to tell you, do it, boom, done. No, there's a role in you. You have the passion, you have the power to go and to do it with passion. Do it with the sincerity that you're going to win, and you're going to actually win. How many of you really believe a miracle could happen to him or her? I don't want to answer, but ask yourself. A church full of books of miracle with everybody. Talk how many volumes of Pope Kiros, how many of Tamavirini, our bookstores filled with books like we read about miracles. But when it comes to me, I don't believe it's going to happen to me. Why not? Well, I think miracle is not going to happen to you. If it's happened to all these thousands of people day and night, what's going to happen to you? Is God stopped in you? He's not going to do nothing for you? You lost the passion for God. You lost the passion that God's going to do something for me. Maybe because I feel unworthy. Maybe feel, I'm bad. God's not going to do it to me. Well, God's not working for good people only. Or His kingdom is going to be very poor. He worked for everybody. He worked for you as a sinner. He worked for me as a sinner. No problem. But understand that expecting a miracle, yes. Being alive every day is a miracle, actually. Being out of diseases, it's a miracle. Being in a lot of issues happen, how God orchestrated things in your life, it's a miracle, but you don't see it. When you have the passion against your enemy, against your giant, expecting a miracle. And again, it's something is going to happen, but have the passion for it. One of the things that really, I'm going to let you listen to this 5 stones later, so remember. Stone of the past. You know what? David remembered God had given him a strength to wrestle a lion and a strange arm, a bear. Wouldn't he do the same with the giant? You know what? A lot of people tell you, don't look to your past, forget your past. Which is true. Yeah, forget the bad past. Forget the sin you commit. Forget the thing that you did wrong. Forget that bitterness happened in your life. But why don't you look to your past and see what God did in your life? Past, sometimes it's a good review for God's work. And that specific experience, the devil wants you to forget. He only would like you to remember your sin. He would like you to remember the bad experience, the bitterness, the fight with this person, whatever tragedy happened in my life. He would like you to remember this very well, to put you down and make you feel upset. But he will never remind you what God did through this experience. Did the devil come one time and tell you, oh, remember what God did in this to you and how he get you out of this and how he covered you? He will never tell you this part. Of course, he never will. He'll never tell you, you know what, God is so good for you in the past, he's going to be good today. But David had this experience. One time a lion came with a sling too. He killed him on a bear or whatever. He did the same thing. He killed them. So when he knew that God delivered those big giants in his life to save his, sheep, he can deliver that giant to him as well. Why forget what God did to you in the past? If God did this in the past, he can do with you that in the future. God never changed. If he did that in the past, he was willing to do it. I challenge you, tonight go home, remember these things, go get that list in the back, in the past. How many things God did to you? How many times you prayed scared to God and God delivered you? How many exams you went and you didn't study good, asked God to help you and you got very good grade? How many problems you're afraid that your parents discovered and God covered for you? How many things you did and you were so scared, terrified? How many financial issues you went through and you were just in a force of, bankrupt and lose everything, and God in the last minute, just that saved you and saved your back. Do you remember this experience? Do you remember these, things in your life? No, you don't. The devil always remind you for the bad experience, but he will never remind you with the good experience. He can always remind you with the bad things, so you can always feel miserable. And my life is miserable. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and the guy doing very good. He's a doctor and he's trying, and he told me, I'm miserable. I never did anything. I'm a failure. I said, oh, I wish to be a failure and a doctor that you're going to be a very good failure. What happened to you, man? And he said, yeah, I'm a failure. Everything I do, I failed. I said, you never failed to be a doctor. You forget you're a doctor. He said, oh, maybe that's the only thing I did good. I said, well, then there's something. You're not a completely failure. But what happened is this, when the devil tried to make you miserable, he will tell you, you're nothing. You're worth nothing. Everything you do is a failing experience. He will never remind you that you did something good in your life. Actually, you did not, but God did. If you remember what God did to you and walk with you throughout your life, then you're gonna not afraid to have the giant in your hand, because He delivered that giant in your hand as well. And this is the fourth stone he did. He remembered the past. He told him, whoever delivered to me this lion and the bear, he gonna deliver you in my hand. So, the last stone he did, remember this, write today's words in a sand, chisel yesterday victories in a stone. Then you will remember them. Last stone, the stone of prayer. David turned toward God. You have been my defense and refuge in the day of my trouble. Then, stone of prayer is very powerful. One prayer is essential in the ongoing work for pray hard and long. Then Ephesians 6. The funny thing is, one time, a guy came to me in a problem. I told him, just why don't you go and pray? And he told me, you think this is a solution? I said, yes. And he told me, what prayer is going to do? I said, I don't know, but it's going to do something. And he told me, is this your way of solution? I said, yes, because I have none. You have any? He said, no. I said, then try this. You come and tell me you need a solution, I tell you something you don't like, and you don't have any. That's the only thing I have, and it worked for me. It's going to work for you. Did you try it? No, I'm not willing. I said, why? He said, because I don't think prayer is going to solve any of my problem. I said, well, then you're going to definitely have no solution for your problem at this point, because you don't want to even try. But I'm going to tell you, prayer is a solution. You're going to tell me, Abuna, why are you so sure? Ask your Abuna, ask Abuna. How many of Abunas actually experience the altar prayer? It's something I can go and talk to you with other Abunas forever. But we don't say it loudly, because sometimes it reveal some confidential information for people, for problems, for something personal that we don't want to share. But I'm telling you, I'm not giving you a sermon. I'm going to try to preach to you. I'm not a preacher at all. I know that. But I'm delivering you an experience. And instead of just challenge, Abuna and tell him prayer, do nothing, experience a prayer. But what prayer? A sincere one, a persistent one, a valid one, a canonical one. Agbeya, for example, became an artifact now. When we talk about people, Agbeya, people said, oh, Agbeya, I don't pray with Agbeya. Did you try the power of Psalms? Did you try that actually staying with the Psalms on a daily basis and contemplating them and see how much power they can give you? Do you understand how many promises in these Psalms when you read? And God can deliver these promises, and when you remind Him with these promises through the Psalms, it's going to be very powerful. He said, no, it's artifact. It's just I'm saying word I don't know. I hear my حاجات دي على الأجبية and I laugh. I said, why don't you try it? Try even one psalm in every hour, 2 psalms, 3 psalms at max, and experience them. And instead of you boycotting and completing, you said, it's boring, it's routine, I don't want to do it, and so on. Why don't you try it? Did you try prayer and it never worked? How many of you actually a man or a woman of prayer? That when something happened, like David did, God, you're my refuge. I have nobody but you. I have no one but you. Did anybody know this? No. How many of you really sincere in their prayer? How many pray hard before you sleep? I ask people, and how in your confession, how do you pray before you sleep? I said, Our Father, and of course myself, and sleep. Really? This is your prayer? This is a conversation you have with God? Examine and really, really live the prayer. And you're going to find a result of your problem. David experienced this in his life. He said even in the end of his life, I am a prayer. He experienced himself, he said كده, أنا في صلاة, I'm a prayer. His life became a prayer. That's why he was victorious. That's why the technique of these 5 stones then really, really put his giant down. And the same God did with these 5 stones, He can do it for you as well. Let us revise the 5 stone again, and I would like you to say it in your own, but I'm going to remind you, and then you're going to say it. First, the stone is stone of what? Persistence, right? I'm going to put them here easier. 2, first one, persistent. Second one, priority. Third one, passion. Fourth one, past. Last one, they are all in a P. Now, can you please say them? What's the first one? Thank you. I'm done, and if you have any questions, please ask. Go ahead.
So when you mentioned passion, what do you feel that you lack that passion?
What's that? I didn't hear you.
Sometimes if you feel like you don't have a passion to even bother asking God,
because you lost hope and you lost motivation. And he said, what if you lose your passion and even you don't care? Because you lost your motivation. And this is a very dangerous stage. And if it has happened, it's going to definitely destroy you, even in your school. If you lose your passion for the degree that you want to take, what's going to happen? You're going to fail, or you're going to just barely make it. And you're going to be successful in your career because you don't have a passion for it. So, losing motivation, losing the goal, what behind? And actually the very good motivation for you spiritually is heaven. Why we fight, to start with? Why we have to be, burdened with fight and trying hard and, doing this? Because we're waiting for heaven. We're not fighting for here. Like Paul said, if we have hope in this life, only we are the most miserable people. But we're looking for heaven. That's why we're not worried about this life. And heaven is a good motivation for us to be with Christ. Right? Okay? Other questions? So, what is the 5 stones again? First one. Very good. So you were not sleeping after all. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. You've been a very good listeners. And I enjoyed being with you.
This is the one?
Well, they have 2.
Okay. We would like to thank Abuna Anthony for this blessings that we heard. Can I just get your attention? I was sitting in the front row and just saw the slides and heard Abuna and was revising some stuff that I used to hear from many people, not only youth, but many people, about what frustration they face when they try. So I think what we heard today is a proof that nothing is impossible with God. The only thing we have to do is to try and try and try and rely 100% on God, because He's the one who's going to give us the support and the strength. And we hear different stories that people living among us, that they really tried and they changed time by time. And I think the changes does not come at once. It needs some time. So resistance, patience, and I think if you put a vision for yourself, or like I used to say, I said last week, mission statement to succeed with your life with God. So today was really a message for everyone, including myself and Abuna Aghasun, and really thank Abuna for giving the time for us today, and please pray for him and for the service, because we need this to be a start for every one of us. And same time next year, I believe Abuna will come again maybe and see what are the differences that happened. We can do this as a not a homework, but like a plan or a project, and see what happened personally. And I think it's going to be lots of changes, of course, positively. So thank you, Abuna.
Just remember the 5 stones and try to do them. That would be the whole day.
A big clap, please.
Just need this one.
Okay, sí, go.
Hey guys, so we want to thank Abuna Anthony again one more time.
Come on.
So just a couple of announcements for NWCOFC and whatnot. We have 2 new hashtags right now. Hashtag
on the survey that was sent out for what sports or co-ed or separate or how you want them structured. We need help with t-shirts, so we need someone to sit down and go through different companies to see exactly what we would need, because every church is going to be printing their own t-shirts for this year's convention. So next comes hashtag Yellow Donate. Yellow Donate is going to be hashtag, this is going to be like our youth campaign for fundraising for all youth events. We need help. So what we need help with is we need help coming with creative ideas for fundraising, because we've gone through all the normal ideas, now we just need creative stuff. We need you guys to help us carry out the fundraising events. It might even include you planning something in your local neighborhood and going out and doing it, and we would come and support you. And we need your help spreading the message of hashtag Yellow Donate. So what we can do, first we're going to start a pie, like a pie thing. So you can send a pie to your friend or your Sunday school servant for $5. They can either accept to be pied, or they can send it back to you for double the amount. So if you pay $5, they pay $10 to pie you again, and that keeps going on until someone accepts the pie. We need you guys to come up. Yes. Oh no, this is actually happening. This is not an idea anymore. Sorry? This is not an edge pie, this is for like the rest of the summer. And this is exactly like edge pie. I don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is, we'll find you, we'll get you, and you will get pie. Okay? We need help coming up with fundraising ideas, and we need help. So when you come in, most of our events are going to have a small donation jar. So there's one right now. If you feel like you have extra cash and you want to put some donations, just put it in the donation jar, and we will get that going. And you can challenge your friends using the hashtag YellowDonate. So let's say 2 friends decide to have a competition of who can run faster. They'll use the hashtag YellowDonate, and they will say whoever wins has to pay $5. It's like the Nenshi thing when he does whoever the loser team needs to donate like materials to the food bank. We're gonna do it. You have to donate to like the NWCUSC or like the youth hashtag YellowDonate. Okay? Sorry? No more checks up window. We're gonna take cash and we're gonna start taking credit down the road. But that's how I mean. If everyone wants to buy a beer, everyone will buy you a beer. And one more announcement, book for NWCUSC if you haven't already booked, because spaces are filling up, and we might reach the point where we can tell you, sorry Habibi, there's no more space, you can't come to NWCUSC. So book your spaces. And use the hashtag. And now, okay, guys, one more announcement. Next week, youth meeting is on campus at 7:30 here. So it's probably, so next week, it's probably going to be in club space, because we don't have a full room book, but after that, we'll probably move it to the Mac Hall conference halls. What? You like uncomfortable chairs? No, we can. You run out of things for this month. Okay. So more details will come out on